Reformation by Oil Rig, a Warhammer 40k fanfiction. Julius kicked his blood-stained carapace boots over the gore-coated desk that had previously belonged to the Imperium-appointed planetary governor of the world of Dawn 4. The distinctive bone-white, pointed flak helmets of the basic troopers of the Children of the Throne and the contrasting red glow of the visors upon their face masks dashed about in the dark of the early morning, having cleaned the shit stain the morbidly obese planetary governor had left soaked through his oversized designer pants upon his golden throne, an obscene mockery of everything Julius and the faith of his homeworld, Thren, and all those countless lesser worlds that bow to Thren's military might, believed in. That the Emperor, the greatest man the galaxy had ever known, would have his Imperium inherited and destroyed from within by inbred scum that feared the warp and its energies, rather than viewing it as the most groundbreaking energy source since man first harnessed fire to his will, was a tragedy, though perhaps not to be unexpected, as men made mistakes. And the Emperor's view of chaos as something to ultimately be destroyed, rather than bend to mankind's will, was a mistake that had had its self-evident consequences. The corpulent planetary governor's pale, cooling corpse, what remained of his many-chinned face scorched black down to the very bone of his skull, had been unceremoniously lifted into a wheelbarrow and hauled off by one of the more mutated veterans, a tall and burly sergeant named Brutus, who had led the assault on the palace with shotgun and bayonet in search of a death he had yet to find, though thankfully, by the throned god's blessing, he had yet to be cursed with eternal spawndom for his failure in life. The Warband's few Chaos Spawn, who had not been fortunate enough to receive the sweet mercy of death over the course of the vicious urban fighting for the planet's capital, could be heard screaming Vox-amplified roars of rage, which echoed through the halls as their thudding, hulking frames shook the walls of the compound with each gigantic, jackbooted step. Their humongous clutched twin axes hacked and slashed down the few remaining loyalist Planetary Defense Force troopers, which cowered behind ramshackle barricades, blood spraying into pools which grew and expanded upon the filthy floor from severed veins and arteries. The enforcers of the Children of the Throne, formerly titled the Throned God's Hounds, a separate unit trained and organized in a manner akin to the Empyrean Schola Progenium and Officio Prefectus, howled like beasts through carapace helmets made to resemble the faces of flesh hounds as they herded the spawn in pursuit of the wholesale murder of cowards that would dare to flee on both sides, cleaving their prey limb from limb with power swords without mercy. Cries of joy intertwined with jealousy coalesced together over Vox as one such helmeted figure kneeled downwards. His hands shook uncontrollably as he howled in both agony and spiritual enrapturement as smoke, black as Leman Russ's exhaust, billowed out and up from the man-made helmet, which he slowly and unsteadily removed with his shaking hands to reveal the cadet enforcer's human face had mutated into the visage of a fleshhound. The fully inducted enforcer, who had been assigned to oversee the training squad's hunt, his own face a mirror image of the Ascended One's cadets, began to howl a bestial roar, which was joined by the Ascended One's cadet enforcer. Cries of both hounds of the throned god joined and mixed together as one. The united howls echoed throughout the compound, as the unit returned to relentlessly pursuing deserters, drove into further maddened brutality, carving those unfortunates they would inevitably find apart into unrecognizable husks of bloody, dripping, burnt, black flesh and sizzling fat. The veteran throned God's Hound within the Warband, a tall and lean-muscled, but by no means physically weak man that everyone only knew as Wolf, nodded downwards to Julius. Pitch-black smoke billowed from the nostrils of Wolf's demonic visage with each breath his visibly defined chest took. Wolf's fangs grit in a grin as he spoke, his words carried with the soft growl of an elder and experienced predator.
The warp is with us, and we are the warp.
The warp becomes us, and we become the warp, Julius continued, as he removed his face mask, though the bone-white crested carapace helmet with red plume that denoted a commander of the Children of the Throne remained equipped on his person. The dawn light of the risen sun revealed the crisp and clean-cut olive-skinned face that distinguished a direct descendant of the people of the planet of Thren and its directly founded colonies within the outermost edges of the Fringe Belka sector. Chocolate hunter eyes, which led down to an aquiline nose, which was merely but part of a skull with pronounced cheekbones, and a defined jawline which commanded respect, marked him as a member of the minor empire on the fringes of the Imperium, which referred to itself as the Children of the Throne Weaver's Lord Nobility. Though with such features, Julius could easily have been mistaken for one of the Prideborn, the Children of the Throne's answer to the progenitor of the Imperium, children directly sired by the most famed and revered heroes of the Children of the Throne on pleasure worlds, devoted solely to baths, feasts, and orgies, then taken by the state upon birth and groomed to embody Threnitas, what it meant to be one of the Children of the Throne. As mandated by the Reaver Lord Council on Thren itself, to sustain the activity on each of such worlds were proudly devoted multiple entire agri-worlds. We are the gods, and the gods are us. All members of Julius's personal retinue spoke together as one. For the Emperor and his legacy. A hooded woman named Arenta stepped forward to Julius. Each step fell perfectly, even though her eyes were blindfolded. She pulled back her white hood to reveal a gorgeous chocolate face, flowing hair, as black as a raven's feathers, crowning a pair of antlers that extended from her head. Artifacts and carved wooden totems hung from her person as she spoke with a voice that was soft and delicate, but which carried a subtle menace and assertive volume.
The last of the Luddites fall, Reaver Lord.
A soft smile crossed her lips, accentuating her features.
I see the fires of the warp rise and rage, like a campfire accepting fuel, licking it in its flames.
One of the men brought upon a silver plate a cup of steaming hot black recaf to Julius, who took it and drank from it as he nodded downwards to the woman, focused upon the feeling of the heat, which trailed into and coursed throughout his toned frame before he spoke. The flame beneath what our sensory organs can perceive has accepted its kindling.
I just hope he doesn't rage out of control.
At once snarled and hissed the veteran sergeant who had personally led the assault upon the palace, as he dusted off his hands and rejoined the Reaver Lord's personal retinue. Glazed over, pearly white, reptilian eyes that visibly glowed contrasted against the visage of a tusked, gilled bull. Upon the top of the looming and Herculean man's head bore a flame which somehow did not hurt the human being that it was attached to, while it also never ceased.
Sarge!
He paused and blinked before he continued, still fully unused to his new station, guiding the warband's veterans most on the verge of spawndom to merciful death.
He's still hacking Luddites into piles of red and pink to shovel down his throat with the rest of the spawn, like it's a hot dog eating contest later.
Human flesh, prepared in the most delicate fashion, can make for a nutritious and psychologically gratifying meal.
The leader of the warband's Prideborn, a man named Roman, spoke through his bone-white pointed carapace helmet. His voice coursed through his face mask's vox like deep, rich chocolate as he holstered his hotshot lasgun to the side, leaned against a pillar, and regarded the rest of the Reaver Lord's retinue through the glow of his red visor.
All the minerals and nutrients that are required for a human being to live are already present, meaning it is trivial to overdose and die if one is not careful in their approach. Unfortunately,
he nodded sympathetically downwards to Brutus.
Those that get burned by the fire of the gods are no longer beheld to such hard and fast rules of physics.
The barbarian masses are left without guidance, and the fire is greedy.
Arenta loudly and clearly spoke.
I can hear the despair. It just screams within the crackling of the fire that draws buzzing and moaning from somehow deeper within.
That fat fuck's dead body is already chained to the back of the Command Chimera and ready to get dragged around the city for the triumph.
Brutus pointed behind himself towards the hall and snorted.